and what is beyond it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of rules like that. Like, have you ever seen the picture of, it's this girl, she's like a little girl, like maybe, probably, I don't know, 13, 14. Sorry about all the shuffling around sounds. She's shooting like an AR-15 at like a target on a fence. Yeah. But it's a fence in like a residential neighborhood, and on the other side of that fence is somebody else's home. Oh. Yeah. And the caption was like, you got to train them right when they're young. And I'm like, well, you should do that. You should train them right. I was like, we're all going to learn a very valuable lesson here today.
Here's how you commit manslaughter.
So stupid. Unless it was like an air rifle one, but it looked real to me. Or how about that video where that dude shot himself in the fucking balls? Did I send you that? Mm-mm. He had like that little like cig or whatever. Yeah. And it's just like from his point of view, he loads a mag into the gun, racks it, pulls the slide back.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
He shows that there's one in the chamber, and he sticks it on his balls, and he pulls the trigger. And he's like, oh!
What did you think?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
I don't know what he was expecting. How could this have happened? I see thousands of videos of that all the time, especially on Twitter. People just dicking around with guns. People get shot or they shoot their floor.
Yeah, my favorite is always like the white teenage boys that are like rapping some song and like waving like an old shitty revolver around.
Like a fucking Rough Rider.
Yeah, and they end up like shooting a fucking hole in the wall.
They all have the same look. Like, oh. There's a one that went viral not long ago. It was like a white guy like that. He was smoking a blunt and he had a little revolver or whatever. Yeah. And he's like rapping and doing the rap hands into the mic, in the camera. And I think he like shoots the floor or something. Yeah. So there's like this loud bang and he kind of jumps and then he looks at his doobie. He's like, like it was the thing that made the noise. And then I think like his mom or somebody came in the room. She was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
I think that's why it's so important to like at a younger age, like to teach your children about gun safety. Like you're not doing your kids any favors by not teaching them about guns, about how to respect weapons and
any kind of weapon, like knives.
Understanding like the rules of how to operate the weapon. Yeah. Like, cause even if they never have an interest, say like you have like a kid that you teach all this stuff to and they're just really not interested in it. Yeah. It's like at least you've armed them with some type of knowledge.
They have an understanding of what that thing is capable
of. Let them like go out and fire it a couple times so that like they're not like I know people that are just horrified of guns. Like it's gonna like jump up and get you. Yeah. like
it's under your bed.
Like you threw it and like you fed it after midnight. Like, it's gonna, like,
it was like running amok through the town.
Like running, boom, boom.
There was a to piggyback off of that, you know, I think it's a good thing to take your kids to shoot guns and stuff, but like, you know, it has to be an appropriate age for one thing, right? And also like, don't hand your 80-pound daughter like a fucking Smith & Wesson 500 or like a Raging Bull or like, for God's sakes, there was that little girl that accidentally killed that firearms instructor in Nevada because the dad took her out there and they were letting her fire a fucking Uzi, a fully automatic Uzi. Right. And it got away from her and she fucking lit up the firearms instructor. So now she has to live, that guy's dead, and then this little girl has to grow up, you know, knowing that she killed somebody.
Right, like the smart thing would have been like, hey, no, you're too young. We're going to let you continue to fire this like 22 rifle. Yeah. Like something that like you can, like it's single, like it's a semi-automatic. Yeah. It only fires one round with one trigger pull. Yep. And the recoil is not going to be horrific
it's not
on
going
you.
to jump out of your hands. Right. Yeah. I mean, I just couldn't imagine being the range instructor and seeing like this little girl in like a unicorn t-shirt and like jail sandals and being like, here, take this Uzi. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I think I think it's okay to like teach you could probably start out with like a BB gun to like teach like.
That was like the first thing I fired was that BB gun.
Like weapon safety.
Yeah.
Like here's how like this it'll work fine like me teaching you this stuff with like larger weapons. But you can start there with like weapon safety, like how to operate a weapon.
So the same rules still apply here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still a gun.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that amazes me is how many people like get caught after the words robbing somewhere with a fucking BB gun.
Yeah. Yeah, or like an airsoft gun. They take the little orange tab off or whatever. Well, a lot of those guns are sold. They're sold. You know, their selling point is how realistic they look.
Right.
And you know, unless you're looking right at the barrel of the thing, because you know the barrel on a gun is going to be much larger than that on a BB gun. But you know, like if you're a police officer.
Yeah, you don't have time for that.
And someone's like, which one? You don't have time to like, hang on, let me look down the barrel of both of these.
Like, nope.
Hang on, let me
That's
smell.
a 9mm.
Let me smell the barrel for gunpowder. Yeah, people will rob stores all the times with fake guns, just like a straight up fucking prop gun that doesn't do anything. But I mean, if you're a fucking cashier, are you gonna take that risk?
Well, it's sort of amazing to me how many people do it, like, especially seeing some of the videos where people they do it, and then, like, they get fucking shot. Yeah. Like, trying to rob somewhere with a fucking fake gun.
One of my favorite videos like that is those two kids, they're like teenagers or whatever. They go into that convenience store, and they hop behind the counter, and they got that fake gun. Yeah. And they're like, you know, they're menacing that guy or whatever. And then, like, this police officer, this black dude, just, like, walks in the store, and he's just like, bam, 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 bam. It's so casual. And he's just, like, shooting him. He walks over to the counter, and he's, like, pointing at him, whatever. And one of the, like, kids that, like, was robbing the store was like, it's fake, the gun's fake. He goes, oh, well, mine's is real. But I love the video because he just walks in so casually. He just starts blasting them.
It's like what's that meme? That Always Sunny meme? Yeah. Where it's Frank.
He's like, so I started blasting. Bang, bang, bang. I fucking love Danny DeVito in that. That show would not be what that show is without Danny DeVito. No. I love that.
Him and
show.
Charlie Day are like the two characters in that show that make it.
One of my all-time favorite episodes is when they get the tickets to go to the Phillies game, but they left him in the apartment, and the apartment was getting fumigated. And so Frank was like, I found this garden hose, and he was like, I'll use it to pump fresh air into the building, and I'll suck on it like a scuba diver. And he goes in there with it, and like it hard cuts to him like dying in the building. He's like, eyes are all red. I love that. I love that fucking show. Or the one where Charlie he got that hornet's nest down, and he put it in a box, and he was gonna try to smoke out the hornets so that he could get their honey. Okay. But he doesn't know that they don't have honey. And he was doing it by he had this plastic tube going into the box, and he was smoking cigarettes. And he had these stings all over his lips. And they were like, "What happened to your face?" He's like, sometimes they fly up the tube and they get you.
Yeah, those two are really the ones that make the show what it is. The other characters are written; they're written all right. Yeah, but Charlie Day and Danny DeVito, they're really the two cornerstones of that show.
It's interesting because if you watch the first couple episodes, if you start from the first couple episodes and you just watch through, you can kind of see the writers kind of figure out okay,
who's who here.
These character dynamics work best when it's this character with this character. Right. Usually you have the two siblings, D and I don't know why I'm blanking on his names. Not Mac, it's not Charlie, it's Dennis.
Dennis, yeah.
D and Dennis, they work the best together. Right. Because they also have that kind of sibling dynamic, so there's a lot they can do with that. Charlie and Mac work great all the time. Right. But Charlie and Frank also work really great. Right. And Frank and Mac work really great. It's they all, but when they're an ensemble together, that's when it's at their best.
Right.
Like my all-time favorite episode is Dayman versus Nightman when they put on that little musical. And Daddy's like, "You gotta pay the troll toll if you want to get that boy's hole." And he's like, "Are you saying boy's hole?" He's like, "No, the boy's soul."
Oh man,
it is such a good show though. It's definitely one of those shows where you can very quickly see it. Like it's a quick turnaround from them trying to figure out the chemistry, and then all of a sudden they've got it.
Well, that's what some shows it feels like they just never get there. Like they're still trying to figure out like what's the best dynamic as far as like which characters work best together.
Yeah.
So like I remember, if you remember like early Simpsons episodes, like they kind of changed the dynamic with kind of who they concentrated on. So like the first early episodes were really more about Bart than they were about just really anybody else in the family. He was the main character of the series.
Yeah.
Then like a few seasons in, that's when they swapped it over to Homer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting because they kind of did the same thing with Homer that they were doing with Bart. It was how does Bart interact with the world around him, and what kind of trouble does he get into because of it? And they did the same thing with Homer. And it's really, The Simpsons is a good case study of like Flanderization of characters, which I'm pretty sure The Simpsons is where the term Flanderization comes from. If you go and you watch the very first ever episode, which was actually a Christmas special, Homer is like this well-meaning but bumbling father who loved his family, but he was just constantly screwing up all the time. And then now he's actually retarded. They did the same thing with Peter from Family Guy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like Homer was still even like during like the middle seasons, he was still like a drunk, but he was still well-meaning. Yeah. Like there's like the episodes where like he takes Lisa to like go get the saxophone, and like he's always trying to do stuff for his kids. Like the one episode where it's like the Do It For Her episode where he's like got Maggie up on the board or whatever. Yeah. But like they've just totally abandoned that from what I understand. I haven't watched a Simpsons episode in years.
It's been a long, long time since I've watched it. It's so hard to believe that it's still going.
Yeah.
It's got to be both feet in the grave at this point. It's like lowering itself into the grave. I mean, I saw a clip from a recent episode not long ago, and the entire point of the clip was to kind of show whoever the voice actor is for Marge. I can't remember her name. She can't do that voice anymore.
Really?
I mean, she's been doing it for what, 30 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And it's a very raspy thing like that. So you can tell, like, if you compare, like, first couple seasons Marge to, like, current season Marge, it's like she can't do that anymore.
Right. I guess that makes sense because I would imagine that would be a hard voice to do.
Yeah. And if they ever recast that role, that's such a specific sounding voice, they're going to have a hard time recreating that.
Right.
I mean, they had to recast Justin Roiland's characters on Rick and Morty, namely Rick and Morty, because he got in a little trouble.
Wasn't he exonerated from those charges?
I don't know if he was or not. I just remember, I think it was like domestic violence. Is that what it was?
Was it domestic violence or was it naughty behavior with underage?
It might have been both.
Yeah, I think it might have been both.
I don't mean to slander anyone. I'm just speaking out of ignorance
I feel like I had seen where he was exonerated from those charges. Like, that doesn't mean that he didn't do it.
Yeah,
that just means
he got away with it.
there wasn't enough evidence to charge him with it. So, and that's alleged.
Alleged. Totally alleged. But whoever they've got doing the voices of Rick and Morty, I think personally that they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the new season, but I've seen clips of it, and like there are moments where you can tell like that's not Justin Roiland, but it is believable, right? Because you go into it knowing that Justin Roiland's voice has been replaced, right? But then you hear Rick and Morty speak, and you're like, oh, that's close enough.
Yeah, close. That's pretty close. Yeah,
it's passable. It's more than passable. I don't mean to shit on the guy. I obviously doing a better job than I could.
Right.
I think his Morty is better than his Rick.
Yeah.
But he does a good job on both.
Which is interesting because Rick is sort of like the central character of that entire series. Like you'd think that you would want to get I would probably want to get Rick closer than Morty.
Nail that one.
Right.
Yeah. It would have been funny. I feel like if any show was gonna do it, they would have worked in something like where Rick's voice sounds totally different now.
Yeah.
And then that's just they spent like a second making a joke about it, and then they just moved on.
Right.
I think they did that with the other show. They have another show that's kind of like Rick and Morty. It's called.
Is that the one that's on Netflix?
Is it on Netflix?
I think so.
It's like these 3 little alien dudes, like little like green bean looking men or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the first episode they did of that after Justin Roiland went away, his character like got shot in the throat or something, and then like they changed his voice actor, and they're like, okay, that's just how your voice is now.
Was I guess he sell the rights to that show to Cartoon Network?
I don't think. I mean,
because it's his IP. So I would assume that...
Yeah, but I mean, in order to get the show made, he probably had to cut some deal with...
Right, so that's what I'm guessing is that he probably sold the rights to the show.
It would be Turner, wouldn't it? Because they own Adult Swim and Cartoon Network and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, would they be the primary owner? Because you also have CNN under that. So I'm assuming that... I guess Turner Networks then would...
Yeah. If you follow it all the way up, it would be Turner Networks, I bet.
Yeah,
because they also own Warner Brothers, don't they? Or is that its own separate thing?
No, I think it might be the same thing.
Because when I'm thinking about like, my mind goes to Space Jam, and that's a Warner Brothers movie. Yeah. But it's all Looney Tunes characters,
right?
And those are owned by Turner.
Well, I know that they have the Hanna-Barbera network.
I know they have that. Yeah, they don't do anything with it, but they have it.
So I think that Looney Tunes is probably owned by Turner.
Probably is.
Which is also owns Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I think if you follow the ladder up far enough, it's like, isn't it like 6 companies that own everything?
Yeah, it's like Nestle.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to fucking Nestle. Imagine the logistical nightmare of that. I mean, you're all the way at the top. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of delegation going on.
Right.
But there's somebody at the very top of the whole thing.
Right.
I would imagine that whoever's sitting at the very top of all of that doesn't have power over all of it. No. You can't be responsible for every single thing.
Well, you've got to imagine, like, you have, like, I think Nestle it's like Nestle, Kellogg, and there's, like, a bunch of, like, real large companies that own everything.
Yeah.
And so if I had to take a guess, I would say that...
General Mills is one of them?
Yeah, General Mills, and I think like Coca-Cola, of course, owns like a whole bunch of shit. They also own like a bunch of chip companies and stuff too.
Frito-Lay, I think.
Yeah, so like you would imagine that, because there's like a board of directors that gets appointed by shareholders,
right? And
then they select the executive management. So like if you're a CEO of something like that large, like I'm sure that number one, I don't give a fuck about getting fired.
Yeah.
Because like you get a golden parachute of like $220 million for getting fired.
If the absolute worst, if the absolute worst thing happens, you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, a lot of like their compensation is tied to like stock options.
Yeah.
So it's like how well like they do like year over year.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're getting like liquid cash.
Right. So I mean, they might get like a salary of like $500,000, which is a lot. That's a lot of money.
That's a
lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
But most of their money comes from the stock options and like them making back money on their dividends.
Yeah.
Which I mean that incentivizes them to do well, because as the company does well, then they make more money.
Yeah.
But as opposed to like, we're going to give you $50 million salary. And then, like, they've tied up all this cash in, like, this one person that's supposed to be like, okay, well, if the company does well, then you do well.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it would make a lot more sense to be like, okay, the actual contract with this guy is that we give him $50 million in cash every year. It's like, we have really got to turn a profit. We've said it a couple times, but, I would never want to be a CEO.
No.
Because I feel like, a lot of people, there's this current kind of disdain for CEOs because I think what people think they do. And this might be true for some of them, but
just
I think
like sit around in meetings and have like eyes wide shut.
Yeah, blowjob parties.
Blowjob parties.
Yeah, and like drink adrenochrome and just like Scrooge McDuck into a big pile of money.
That Family Guy episode where Peter does that and breaks all of his bones.
I mean, what they actually do, I mean, for fuck's sake, look at Elon Musk. He's a CEO of like 4 or 5 different companies. But luckily for him, they're all his companies.
Right.
But you're constantly working.
Right.
From the moment you open your eyes in the morning to you close them at night, you're working. You might not even go to bed every night.
Right.
You're probably awake for a couple days.
Right, taking like cat naps throughout the day.
I would never want to do that.
It takes a very particular person.
It does. It takes a particular type of person with a particular type of personality.
Right.
I think that, maybe you got to be a little autistic, like a little bit on the spectrum somewhere.
A touch of tism.
A little touch of the tism.
Yeah.
And, we had also mentioned before, like, some of the greats in history. Knowing what we know now about autism with these people that like hyper focus on like one thing and become like savants at it.
Right.
It would make sense that like maybe Beethoven was a little autistic, or Bach, or some inventors like fucking Albert Einstein might have been to a degree.
No.
But, they say autism is a spectrum because you have autism where you have Einstein and Bach and Beethoven, and you have people who are, like, afraid of candles.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, I get the autism argument, but at the same time, I think it's so, like, washed out for, like, just normal people being like...
because people call everything autism.
Yeah, they're like, well, I have autism.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. You're just a jackass.
Yeah, you're just lazy.
It's like, there's, like, a lot of people that get online and, like, they'll try to, like, subscribe autism to somebody. Like, in my professional opinion, it's like, shut up. You work as a fry cook at McDonald's. So, like...
I kind of have this rule of interacting with people online. If anybody starts their little paragraph, that'll get lost among all the other billions of paragraphs that have ever been entered into social media. If they started off with, as someone who...
Yep, nope. I have no interest.
Nothing following that means anything.
Nope.
It's just all nothingness.
Yeah.
Or speaking as someone who, you've already subscribed to, or you've given to yourself this power over. You think you have this power over everybody. You have this expertise that no one else has.
No.
And maybe if you're a fucking neurosurgeon, you can say if someone was like, I'm a neurosurgeon, and then they said I would be more inclined to listen to what that person has to say. But the first thing they come out and say is, well, actually, they have little peacock feathers all come out like this. And then you just call him like a fag, and then watch him have a meltdown. Speaking as a fag, it's interesting that you brought that up because I was reading this article the other day about how they think that therapy is causing more harm than good these days, because therapy changed. Therapy isn't like, it hasn't been the same thing since its inception. No. So therapy really kind of hit the ground running in like the 60s. Because there was kind of this push to like understand the human psyche, and a lot of it actually stemmed from research into psilocybin and psychedelic use and stuff like that. And in the 60s, they didn't get it right. They were like electroshocking people and lobotomies and things like that. But it kind of changed into this thing like around the 90s and early 2000s where it was like, let's identify what it is that you're unhappy with, and then try and find root causes of that, and work to fix the problem. Whereas today, what therapy is it's like, let's identify an issue that you have, and let's center everything around it. Let you be you. It's therapy is causing people to become their illness, primarily, and everything else is secondary.
Well, I mean, you have to assume that, like, there's there's like a simple like supply and demand curve.
Yeah.
Like, so I would assume that as more people get pushed this idea that like they need therapy, like that you need to go talk to a therapist.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, and some people do. Some people like have.
Some people could benefit from it.
Yeah, some people could benefit from it. There's certainly people that have like PTSD that need to like talk that out,
work through it,
so that they can lead like a normal life for themselves. But like, then you have just like kind of people that like show up. It's sort of like the boogie thing.
It's boring people.
Yeah, where he does the mushrooms, and then he was like, my parents weren't that bad.
Yeah.
I was just bitching and moaning.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I would assume there's a lot of people like that,
just wallowing in self-pity.
Just wallowing in self-pity, as opposed to just being like doing what you got to do.
Yeah.
And like just being like, hey man,
that's sacking up.
Yeah, that's fucking life. I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, then like I said, then when you say that, that's not to put down other people that do have these issues that
no.
Like you're talking about people that maybe like were sexually abused as children, and maybe somebody like was like trafficked or something like that.
Absolutely, they need therapy.
Like people who are prisoners of war.
Yeah.
Like these sort of people, like they do have trauma that they need to work through.
They went through some kind of extraordinary circumstance.
And most of those people, they don't want to be that illness. Yeah. They don't want anything to do with that fucking illness.
Yeah.
They want to work through it so that they don't have to be that anymore.
The worst possible thing they could do is center themselves around that.
Right.
Yeah.
And another wild thing is like I've noticed is like a lot of young women seem that like they see people with like tics and everything online, and then like they'll project that as well.
Yes, I see a lot of that. They're like, it's especially bad on Twitter. People will get into these echo chambers where they're all prescribing these illnesses to one another. And it's like that becomes your community.
Right.
And if you are a part of a community where you all sit around and you just make believe that you're all sick in the head.
No.
Maybe some of that manifests and you do become kind of sick in the head. I think really what you could prescribe to a lot of it is narcissism.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that a lot of people don't have social skills, right? And I think what happens is they feel that people should like them.
Yeah.
And if people don't like them, they say, well, there must be some unfixable thing with me that's unfair that I have.
Right.
And so they start looking for, I have bipolar disorder. I have OCD. I have, any number of gender-related issues. I have there's a lot of people that will convince themselves that they are gay or queer or whatever, and they're not.
Right.
But they will prescribe to that. They will subscribe to that because it gives them a community to be a part of.
And it also seems like with that particular one, like there's a lot of societal pressure, I think, from like other kids, like to be like other like teenage kids, like that are like in their late teens.
Yeah, it's hitting people early.
Right.
Yeah, very early.
Where it's just like I saw a thing the other day where somebody was talking about, they were like, oh, there's like, a mass majority of the kids now, I don't know the percentages or whatever, are like they're like non-binary or like I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I think what it means is I think non-binary means that you don't prescribe or you don't you don't feel either male or female.
And I think a lot of what that is that if I had, I'm going to put on my scientist hat really quick.
The scientist hat. In your mind, what does a scientist hat look like?
I think like a dunce cap, just with like a propeller on the top.
It's like an 80s movie prop. It's like a colander with a bunch of light bulbs.
Like I think probably what a lot of that is that is like girls are much more they're much more empathetic as opposed to guys. So I think like
by their very physiology, yes.
Right. So yeah. I think that young girls, like they are more likely to identify themselves as like being non-binary or whatever. Like if they have a friend that's that way,
yeah.
I think they're more likely to like be like, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And whether or not like that's true or not, they might be doing it to make the other person feel better.
Yeah.
And then they like slowly fall into like
they become that
whatever that is.
Yeah.
And young men are just trying to fuck.
Yeah.
So like they're like, you're non-binary, me too.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'm wherever you're going with all that. I'm following with you. Yeah.
So, and I think that's a lot of what that is, and I think there's a lot of like sick people out there
take advantage of it.
That take advantage of. I think there's a lot of people out there that will take advantage of women just simply based on the fact that they are more empathetic than men are. Like, I've known a lot of guys in my life, and not a whole lot of them are very fucking empathetic.
No. Men are just smart enough to take advantage of the empathetic nature of a woman.
And, well, I mean, but there's also women need to be empathetic because guys are not. And we can't operate in a society that is non-empathetic.
Yeah.
Because, like, you might have somebody that, like, gets their leg blown off in a fucking war.
Yeah, and then nobody's there to take care of them.
And then somebody comes, and then he comes back, and he's, like, all bandaged up.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, man, go get me that wrench. Chop, chop. Like, he might find it funny, like, but at the same time, it's like he can't treat people like that.
Right,
like,
I think there's a lot of things that are causing like this wave of people identifying as all these different things, and I think another we've discussed the narcissism behind it and the kind of the empathy angle of it, but I think also that what it is you have institutions that are kind of broadening the definition of what these things mean.
Yeah,
like namely colleges. It all starts in college. Any time that there's some kind of like cultural revolution or whatever, it happens in college, which is really kind of scary looking at the shit that's happening in college right now. It's a lot of like, pro-terrorist, anti-white. But it all starts there. I mean, like all the free love movement and everything in the 60s started in the colleges. But you have, like I said, you have these institutions that'll kind of broaden the definition of what these things mean. So it's like, okay, well, queer is kind of like this catch-all term, right? It means gay, bi, lesbian, non-binary, gender fluid. Right. I think the Canadians have something called two-spirit, whatever that is. I don't know.
I don't keep up with Canada anymore.
Yeah, Canada. Oh my goodness. So a lot of these kids who, probably didn't fall into any of those categories, now all of a sudden they do.
Right.
And then they start asking themselves questions like, well, what does that mean? And I can't ask my parents about it because they don't know about any of this make-believe nonsense. Right. I have to go over here to La La Land and figure it out with these people.
Well, I mean, it's just sort of amazing to me that, like, there's so much of that movement starts at the university level, and it's, number one, it's not coming out of the sciences.
No, it's coming out of the liberal arts.
It's coming out of the arts
philosophy
departments.
Majors.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think it would be best if you took all of the hard sciences and you separated them from the arts.
Yeah, like STEM. If STEM became universities and then all the arts became something else.
A funny thing is they don't call it STEM anymore.
No?
They call it STEAM.
Why?
Arts.
But what?
Yeah. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Because go fuck yourself.
Yeah, fuck off.
Go fuck yourself.
Fuck off, you piece of shit.
Okay, when you need a kidney replacement, we'll get an artist to come and do it.
I'm gonna go get the lesbian dance theory major to come in and cut me open.
Oh my God. Or get that whatever that freak was they had at the World Economic Forum with the painted up face and she was coughing into everybody's face. Did you see that? That was the same day that Javier Milei went up there and shat on everybody.
The funny thing about that is I went and looked at. You have to search for that video, like the actual World Economic Forum one
of his speech.
It doesn't, like, on YouTube on my phone.
Yeah,
I don't know about on the computer, but on the phone, like if you just go to videos and then go to latest, it won't show it to you.
Really?
You have to go, like, it's in the search function.
Yeah.
Like if you search it and then scroll through the videos, you can find it.
Yeah.
But if you go directly to their YouTube channel,
they don't have it.
It's not there.
I wonder why.
Because, like, if you go and look at, like, the videos that have come, like, during that time frame, right?
Yeah.
It's like 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 15,000 views, 2,000 views. His is at, like, 350,000 views.
Of course it is.
What did you think about the video that I sent you where they used the AI to generate his own voice speaking English?
That's insane. That video was insanity. But there was a couple of moments where you can pick up, like...
Right. But for the most part...
It seems like it struggles with vowels sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it'll kind of like... Because what it's trying to do is it's all interpolation, right?
Yep.
I think when you hit like a soft A or like a hard O sound, like it kind of just chops that up and stretches it out.
Right.
That's why you get that kind of like sound every now and then.
No. But for the most part...
For the most part, I was like, if you didn't know, you'd be like, oh, Javier speaks really good English.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. The AI chick
And they even
can do.
he even like had an accent.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really impressive as far as...
There is an AI service that markets itself to call centers.
Yeah.
That will use AI to make people in India speak with a nearly indistinguishable American accent.
Really?
Yeah. Because that's usually one of the dead giveaways when you get a call like that and there's some guy who's like, hello, Mr. And you're like, okay, this is obviously a fucking spam call.
Yeah.
Goodbye. And he's like, bloody bastard, bitch.
You ever watch the YouTube videos where like the guy will get on there, he'll like...
He'll just waste their time, like hours and hours, like 20 hours. He'll do it for so long. My all-time favorite one is when he pretended to be the old lady and went and got all those Google Play
from Best Buy,
all the Google Play Store cards, and then he kept redeeming them. So just putting his own money back in his own account, and the dude is screaming, "Do not redeem! Do not redeem! Why the fuck did you redeem?" You can hear him just like in the call center, just having a meltdown because he wasted like 32 hours.
And like it's so funny because it's funny because I'm sure that there are old people that will go do that shit.
That's why it keeps happening.
That's why it keeps happening, which makes there's like no fucking telling what they're gonna have when we get old that they're probably gonna try to scam us with. Yeah. It's like like a
hologram of my wife. Mary walks into the room and looks just like her, but she's like, "Would you like to go to this?" I'm like 90, so I'm like, okay, sounds good.
But yeah, so what did you think about his speech at the World Economic Forum?
I liked it. I liked that he kept emphasizing the point that socialism will not fix the current issues.
Right.
Socialism is the cause of the current issues.
Right.
He makes that point. He's not repetitive about it, but he drives that point home in his speech.
Right. One of my favorite things that he did during that speech was that he said failure does not imply that capitalism doesn't work because failure is part of capitalism because you are free to fail.
Yeah.
He's like, whether or not you bring something to market that works or not
is on you.
Yeah. He's like, that's not on the market.
That's not on capitalism.
That's not on capitalism. Yeah. Capitalism is simply just the tool that is used to generate wealth.
Yeah. He also like very flatly stated that capitalism is morally superior.
Yeah. It was so funny that like I think the funniest part about it is that I could feel the tension in that room.
Yes, I was watching the crowd the whole time.
Yeah.
So many of them were just sitting there just angry. Yeah, I'm going to need a lot of adrenochrome after this. Fuck you, Klaus Schwab.
I didn't watch the video. Like I had it playing in the background while I was doing work. So I didn't watch it, but even him saying it and me knowing who's in that crowd, I was like, oh yeah, they're mad.
Did you ever? You can hear a couple of times he's got a little bit of a sting in his voice.
Yeah,
like you can tell he's up there. Javier
just disdain for these fucking people.
You could tell he's up there. He wants to go like he always does, but he held it together very well on stage. I could tell
right there at the end where he's like long live freedom, damn it.
Yeah, there's a couple of times where he gets a little worked up, but then he catches himself and he pulls it back down. I love the man.
Yeah.
He's so uncompromising.
Yes.
He's so uncompromising. That's what I like about him.
It's so funny because I'm sure that all of them flew their own private jets.
Yeah.
And he flew commercial.
He did, yeah.
And from what I've seen, the people in Argentina, they fucking adore that guy.
Yeah.
Like, he'll, like, get on the plane and everybody is... They're
freaking
like,
out because they love him, yeah. Well, you know, he also... He is kind of like the antithesis of what a Republican is.
Right.
Right? Because Republicans don't do anything.
Right.
They get elected and then they don't do anything.
Right. They just sit there and...
They just sit there and be Republicans. These Democrats get elected and they do things.
They're active. Like, the whole thing with the Republicans is, like, they're simply just, like, giving away inch by inch.
Yeah.
They're like, no, don't go that far, but we'll give you this.
Yeah.
No, don't go that far, but we'll give you this.
Yeah.
And so you're simply just taking 1,000 steps.
Yeah, 1,000 little steps. Yeah.
As opposed to, like, that guy's a libertarian.
All the way.
Where he's like, my views are in direct competition with what you want. So fuck you, and I'm taking them back.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as he was elected, he immediately went to work.
Oh yeah.
He started clearing house.
He dumped the peso.
I mean, like I think he cut out like 300,000 something government not institutions, but it was like governmental, like, you know,
oversight. It was 380 the first day.
Yeah.
But his plan is to get rid of 380,000.
Yeah.
So it was just a small step towards.
But he's actually doing what he said he was
doing
going to
what
do.
he said he was going to do. Like,
and he hasn't stopped. He's just been working and working and working. I love that he is kind of like. One of my most recent favorite things they did was they shellacked all those fucking Chinese fishing boats that have been basically stealing fish from the Argentines for decades. And because somebody was getting paid under the table. When Javier came along, he was like, no more of that.
Nope, no more of
Here's
that.
Here's a cruise missile.
I think it is interesting because there's so much of South America was run by corruption and large government that those people have just fucking had enough of it.
A lot of those governments are bought out by other Western governments.
Right. So, like, you see, like, Ecuador is a bit... That's a bit wild for me.
I think Ecuador is having growing pains right now.
Right. So, like, for those of you that don't know, currently I guess it's the president of Ecuador is like on a fucking manhunt.
Yeah.
For like
cartel.
For the cartel.
Yeah.
Like, he's taking them up in helicopters and pushing them out.
It's going off. It's popping off in Ecuador.
And I guess
they're in open war. You know that? The cartel and the Ecuadorian military are in open war right now.
From what I understand, at least from what I've read, is that the people, like the populace of that country, like, they're in support of, because from what I understand, he's very free market as well.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm not dealing with this bullshit with the cartels anymore. And everybody's like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank God. Well, because the cartel isn't hurting just, commerce.
Right.
They're directly hurting the people. I mean, I remember reading this thing about it the other day. It was like the Ecuadorian cartels or whatever, like, stole something like 70 to 80% of Ecuador's GDP every year. 70 to 80%. Ecuador's already a small country. Their GDP can't be that big.
Right.
But and the cartel's taken almost all of it. Well, no wonder that, it got as violent as it did.
Right. Well, I mean, that makes sense to me from a free market standpoint, is that I cannot allow other people to steal the fruits of others' labor.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't help us here.
Yeah.
Because you stealing something has not created any type of, hasn't created a product.
Yeah.
Hasn't created wealth.
Yeah.
Hasn't done anything. All you're doing is you're just transferring it. Now you've become a parasite on the system.
Yeah, and you have to go.
And you gotta go.
Do you see where they like filled up all their prisons in I think it was 2 months?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were just rounding up because they already knew. Yeah. They knew who these people were. They knew who the cartel was because the previous administration was working with them.
Right.
Well, maybe not working with them, but were being forced to work with them. So he
they were
comes
allowing
in,
it to happen.
They were allowing it to happen, yeah. So he comes along, he's like, no more, and he just starts rounding them up.
I got the names.
Yeah, he starts rounding them up, and he's throwing them. They filled up, like, I think it was like in the first 3 weeks, they filled up something like 20 prisons.
Really?
And then they just kept growing from there. And like, I love all the pictures of like all those cartel guys. They got them down to their skivvies with like their hands zip tied behind their back. Yeah. They shaved all their hair off, and they just got them like crammed in this corridor. Yeah. It's just gangbanger storage is all it is. And then, like, of course, you had, like, all the bleeding hearts, socialist liberals and everybody in the West who were like, oh, this is inhumane. You weren't saying a goddamn thing about these people when they were chopping off people's heads.
Yeah, raping
women and children.
And killing children.
Yeah,
and
you didn't care about the humanitarian side of it until they started doing this. So.
Which is kind of amazing to me that people that will talk about the government that way, but then you also see governments that are very socialist that will turn around and they will utilize violence on its own populace, but it's okay then.
Yeah.
Because it's
different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
right.
Capital D.
Whereas, like, look at, like, you don't see any of them talk about, like, Holodomor with the Ukrainians and Russia, where they went in and killed all these fucking Ukrainian peasants during the collectivism.
And then they didn't know why there was no food growing.
Yeah, interesting.
What caused that?
Yeah, because you took all the people that knew how to fucking farm and you sent them to the fucking into industrial complexes, and you're like, no, you're going to go hammer a fucking nail.
Yeah, you're going to go make hinges for the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no wonder it didn't fucking work. It's like, and then you look at like Mao's Great Leap Forward, where he killed an estimate of 70 million fucking people.
Yeah. The amount of blood that Mao spilled could probably cover this planet.
Right. Or you look at Pol Pot over in fucking Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like, just those three, just those three are probably responsible for over 100 million fucking deaths.
Way more than that. Mao was like 60 or 70 himself.
So, I mean, I don't... Yeah. And that's a conservative fucking estimate.
Yeah.
It could well be over 100 million.
Yeah, it could be a lot more. It probably is a whole lot more.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with the difference for me between a free market capitalist society and a communist society, or one that institutes socialist leanings, is that in order to institute socialist leanings, you have to do it behind force and violence.
Yeah.
Because if somebody goes, I don't want to do that, you go, no, you are going to fucking do it, and you shove a fucking gun in their face.
Yeah. If somebody in a capitalist society says, I don't want to do that, I say, okay, you don't have to do that, but you're not getting any money.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people will say, well, that's the same thing as slavery. If you're withholding money from somebody so that they can't buy food or they can't put shelter over their head, that's slavery. It's wage slavery. It's like, no, it's not. You have a choice of whether or not you're going to do what you need to do.
All right. If we want to go down that road, it's like, well, what if you have somebody over here that works like, I don't know, as an electrician, and they go, oh, well, in the collectivist communist society, everyone's going to make the exact same amount of money except for the politicians.
Yeah.
And then
we're going to live in ivory towers.
Yeah, and we're going to, and it's like, so we're going to lower your government stipend or your government salary down to $40,000 a year. Everyone will make $40,000 a year.
All across the board.
All across the board.
Yeah.
And you've got some schmuck that sits at home and doesn't do a goddamn fucking thing.
Yeah, he writes poetry.
He writes poetry and does fucking yoga classes. It's like while you're out there working in
working in attics.
Yeah, working in attics in 100-degree fucking heat.
Running wire.
Yeah, running wire. It's like, what if that guy goes, I don't want to fucking do this anymore.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, you don't? Well, we're going to send you to the fucking gulag if you don't.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's not fucking slavery?
Yeah.
That's not also fucking slavery? When you point a fucking gun at somebody?
It's different.
Yeah. You point a fucking gun at somebody and say, no, you're going to fucking do this?
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like, oh, I don't know, the fucking plantation.
Oh, man. I always laugh at, like, people who...
I'm sorry, I get so mad.
I know, because it's so frustrating.
I get so fucking mad. Communists make me so fucking mad.
Do you realize the only reason that any communist country exists is because it's being stipended by capitalist society?
Yeah.
If capitalist society didn't exist anywhere, all those people would fucking die.
Like they have in the past. I see it all the time where people will just kind of
they'll apply capitalism, like it's this big bad boogeyman, to all of their problems.
Right.
Like every single problem I have in my life is because of capitalism. Those people who say that will never, ever, ever, ever take a look in the mirror and say, maybe some of this is my fault.
Right.
No, it's always capitalism.
Right.
And we've said it 1,000 times before. People love to point to a simple answer.
Right.
For complicated problems.
Right.
If I've got, myriad issues in my life, which, most people do.
Right.
It's all about how you navigate it. If I've got thousands upon thousands of things going on, it would be a lot harder to narrow down here's the issue with this, here's the issue with this, here's the issue with this, than it would be to say, oh, look, there's a big thing called capitalism.
Right. And I can just blame everything on that.
That's the issue. That's all of it, everything.
Well, I mean, the only thing that you can do as an individual is control the controllables, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, what can I control? It's like, well, I can control my work ethic. I can control showing up on time.
Yeah.
I can control making sure that I do my best work every day.
Yeah.
It's like, but other than that, you got to let the rest of that shit go.
Yeah. You have to relinquish control of that stuff.
Yeah, you have to relinquish control.
Not even relinquish control because you never had control in the first place. You have to relinquish this idea that you can gain control of these things.
Right. It's like, so in order for you to succeed, it's like you want now to institute collectivism. You would rather see everyone else suffer.
That was something that Javier said in his speech. He when he was talking about how capitalism is morally superior, he said it was because he was like a collectivist ideology is directly opposed to the well-being of the individual.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, capitalism has its failures.
Well, every system is going to have its failures.
Everything is because, we're humans. We have not created anything that's perfect. And it's very easy to sit there and fantasize about this communist utopia where everyone's fed and everyone's housed and everyone gets to do what they want all the time. And yeah,
but the underpinnings of that society are going to be held up by individuals that do the work that nobody else wants to fucking do. It's like, and how do you select those fucking people? With a fucking gun.
The only thing that's ever come close to a communist utopia is capitalist society.
Right.
Communism has never got off the fucking ground.
It's like, okay, do you think that somebody would rather paint and have orgy parties every day for $40,000 a year, or
I'd do that for $40K.
Or do you think that they would rather, I don't know, clean out fucking septic tanks?
Yeah.
It's like, you want to know why people want to clean out fucking septic tanks? Because they make a lot of fucking money.
Because other people don't want to do it.
Because other people don't want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I make $250,000 fucking dollars a year.
Yeah.
They're like, I'll jump down in there and fucking suck all the shit out of the septic tank.
Yeah, just siphon it out with my mouth.
But that's what incentivizes people. It's like, I do a shitty fucking job. I don't want to fucking do this job, but I'm compensated well for it.
Yep.
It's like the whole thing that's going on right now with the trades and with higher education.
Yeah.
It's like you have so many people that have gone into corporate America that have these 4-year degrees or whatever
with hundreds of thousands
of dollars of debt, and they didn't choose anything in the sciences.
Yeah.
They just chose a English fucking degree or something like that.
Literature.
Yeah, and then it's so companies are well, I have a selection here. It's so if I'm a company that's hiring a a software analyst, it's do you think I'm going to hire somebody with a computer degree?
Yeah.
Information technology degree? Or am I going to hire this person with the English degree? I'm going to hire this person with the fucking information technology degree. It's so then this person with the English degree is just looking for fucking work.
Yeah, it's there's no work to be found.
Yeah, and there's no work to be fucking found because companies are no, I have my pick. I don't have to pick you. It was where it used to be. It's it was more evenly split. We had people in the trades. Well, people in the trades now, they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going in the fucking trades.
Yeah.
It's like, so when you call up a fucking plumber and they go, yeah, that's going to cost you $30,000 for me to do that.
I'm the only plumber in town.
I'm the only plumber in town. And I don't have to compete with anyone. Yeah. It's like, well, guess what? You're going to have to pay that $30,000 fucking dollars. Yeah. So this guy's just fucking rolling in cash.
Yeah. You might look at your son and say, you're going to be a plumber.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember like when we were in school, they were like, oh, if you're stupid, you go into the trades.
Yep.
You big fucking dummy.
You big idiot.
You big idiot. It's like,
are you going to be a welder? Yeah. You're a retard.
As opposed to like going into like, it's like, oh, all the smart people go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt so they can get an English degree.
Make sure you go to college so you can be Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Right.
I'll do that.
Whereas, like, I think more people now are seeing, like, it's just, like I said, it's just simple supply and demand.
Yep.
It's like, so now, like, if you have a bunch of people that flood the fucking trades, it's like, and then a bunch of people that have these degrees, they die off.
Yep.
It's like now you're going to have a majority of people in the trades, and you're going to have less people in corporate America. Now, corporate America is going to be paying a premium for whoever. It's just capitalism. That's how capitalism works. Supply and demand.
Yeah. It makes sense that the people who are bitching about capitalism are the ones who don't benefit from it.
Right.
And the people who don't benefit from it are the ones who didn't play the game. Right. The people who thought that they could just be like a philosophy major.
Right.
Or an English major or whatever.
Well, I mean, like, I get and I understand their argument, and I am empathetic towards their argument because I'm in the same fucking boat.
Yeah.
It's like I went and I took out a bunch of fucking loans so I could go to school because we were sold a bill of goods that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like, trade schools are not an option. You're going to go to college because everybody's like, if you go to college, you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
And then, well, you just took a bunch of people away from the trades. It's like, so, like I said, so instead now when you're coming out of college, you make $30,000 a year with a fucking degree that costs you $150,000 as opposed to going to trade school and it costs you a couple $1,000 to maybe take like a year's worth of courses. Yeah.
You come out of college with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and then no job. And then you look and you see that retard that went to vocational school, and he's like driving a Challenger. He's got somebody sucking his dick going down the road.
So, I mean... so like, I get and I understand the argument, but at the same time, because we were, like, I don't want to say we, because essentially, like, when I was like, well, I can't go back now.
Yeah.
Like I can only go forward to try to outpace everyone else, to beat everybody else in the rat race. It just is what it is. But so like I understand like the shit bill of goods that was sold to everyone at the high school level when we were coming up. Is like, but I'm hoping now that people will look and go, no, there's lots of different options. You choose somewhere where you can go and you can make a bunch of fucking money because nobody wants to go do that work or there's not enough people in that job. Like, so all it is like, how high is the demand and what is the supply for the demand of those jobs?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you sitting there and bitching and complaining and saying that everyone else needs to fucking pay for your shit? No, fuck that. Go figure it out.
Yeah. You know, and then also you have to worry about, like, these Marxist ideologies that have become so pervasive. And not just in like American society, you know, almost all the Western culture. They're starting to invade like areas like medical care and transportation, specifically flying planes. And of course, I'm talking about all these DEI hiring practices.
The people at Boeing after they got the door ripped off. Did you see that?
I did see that. And I love the picture of Mel Gibson in the comments where he said, say it with me, every single time. It never fucking fails. Because there was this, I'm surprised I haven't talked about it yet, there was this huge argument that happened on Twitter between Mark Cuban and Elon Musk, where they were Mark Cuban was arguing for DEI hiring practices.
For those of you that don't know, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah. Mark Cuban's whole point was that DEI would give you a better chance of hiring the right person than a strictly merit-based hiring process would, because DEI opens you up to a larger candidate pool, which doesn't make sense because you can technically hire anybody you fucking want to. Right. Nothing was ever stopping you from hiring a black man or a black woman.
Like, I can only hire these white people.
Says who?
Nobody said that.
Nobody said that. Like the only other option was I can't hire any white people. Of course, Elon Musk was arguing, like, no, like, you
hire the best
always
candidate,
hire the best person for the job.
Right.
If they happen to be white, whatever. If they happen to be black, whatever. If they happen to be female, whatever.
Yeah.
You always hire the most qualified candidate. That's always what you do. That is paramount. And, of course, people are shitting all over Mark Cuban. They were like, how come you don't have any trans Muslim Asian women on the Mavs?
Yeah.
And then, of course, he never had an answer for that, surprisingly.
Right. So, it's okay when it's meritocracy when I do it.
When I do it. Yeah, it's different. Yeah. Everybody wants equality until you don't benefit from it anymore.
Right. But I mean, like, up until a point, I understand the argument of them being like looking in different places for candidates that you might not necessarily choose.
Right.
Like, I understand, like, if you fall into like this thing where it's like, I'm just hiring the same person over and over and over again. It's like, well, you're probably going to get the same results over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure.
So I understand looking outside of your purview to be like, who else is out here that might help my organization succeed?
Who might bring like a fresh set of eyes, a different perspective.
Right. Yeah. But if you go too far out on the edges, it's like, and now you're bringing in somebody that's got piercings all in their fucking face.
Or who is just openly shitting in the street.
Right. This fucking crazy person.
This crazy man who clucks like a chicken.
You're like, oh, yeah, I think you'll do just fine here.
This is exactly what our plane company needed. I think that the initial... I think its inception, DEI's inception, I think, it's kind of like how Javier said, it was people with good intentions.
Right.
I think it was done with good intentions. I think the idea was we want to see more, people who are underrepresented in these positions.
Well, it's like I said, it was people that were empathetic towards the struggles of others.
Exactly. But just because you aren't represented there doesn't mean you deserve to be represented there. Just that's not the only factor that makes you deserve to be there. If you are underrepresented there and then you go to college for that thing and you excel in that field, then you deserve to be represented there. That's the only thing that gives you that makes you earn that representation. Right. Simply not being there is not it. So all that to say, it kind of turned into this thing where, instead of helping uplift people who otherwise wouldn't get those chances, because I'm under no illusion that it used to be that they did only hire white people because they were white.
Right.
I'm sure that was happening. I don't think it was nearly as pervasive as they're making it out to be, and it certainly isn't that way today.
Well, it certainly wasn't that way, like, I would assume from, like, 2000 onward. Like, just thinking of, like, modern times, if we would consider the turn of the millennium, like, modern times. Like, I certainly think we were at a point during that time. Like, it seems like to me, like the 90s going into the early 2000s, that a lot of people were kind of like colorblind. Like, it was more meritocracy based. Like, is like a meritocratic society where it was like, do you have the skills in order to perform the job?
Right.
Then I don't give a shit. Like, as long as you can do the job, I don't fucking care.
Keep your personal life out of it. Because, like, we have to be the face of this company.
Right. Whereas opposed to, like now, where it's more like, where it's like, well, what's your gender?
Yeah. Are you gay?
Right. It's like, it kind of.
And then they hold him out like Rafiki over the Pride Rock. Look at the gay person I hired.
Or like, what are your pronouns?
Yeah.
Well, it's like they've put that at the forefront now. Like, and like I said, I think that.
My pronouns are CEO and CFO.
Whereas, like, you have, like I said, like we were talking about earlier, like I think that the whole DEI thing, like it was well intentioned, right? It was like, well, how do we include people that that might get overlooked for this job, but they're actually a good fit for this job? Like I understand it from that standpoint,
right?
But at the same time, it's like people that are empathetic are more likely to fall into the trap of not noticing people that are parasitic, that come into these organizations and try to take over power for themselves, so that they can have power over others. And I think that it doesn't serve you well not to notice that there are people that are like that. There's a lot of people that are like that. They just want power over others, which is really kind of interesting because the people that are like real into the DEI thing also really hate cops because they say they just want power over other people. But then
there's a lot of overlap with those groups.
But then they turn around and they don't think that there aren't people that are in like their groups that just want power over people.
Couldn't possibly.
Right. It's like there's like a lot of like sneaky fuckers, like if you know that term. Where it's like they'll sneak themselves into these organizations or into these companies. It's like the whole
and fuck everyone.
Well, it's like the whole thing with the BLM like organization where she embezzled all that fucking money,
every penny,
and then went and bought a mansion
in Malibu,
in a white neighborhood
in Malibu. Like straight away, like within.
She's like, I gotta get away from all these black people.
Within like 2 years, it was so fast. Oh boy.
It's like I said, it's just people like that like they don't really give a fuck about any of that shit. It's like they just want power for themselves. They want power and they want to make a whole bunch of fucking money. It's like and it's like why waste my time learning a skill or a trade when I can just lie to these fucking people and just be charismatic.
Loud enough. If I bitch loud enough, I'll get it. Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right.
Yeah. Well. It also is, it's concerning because there are jobs, there are fields where you absolutely, for the sake of humanity, have to hire based on merit.
Right.
Airline pilots, bus drivers, even
the military.
We'll have to save that for another episode. That's a whole other thing. I noticed that all the military ads changed to when all this war started kicking off with Israel.
All just white guys.
Yeah, I made
jumping out of the planes and shit.
I made a post. I was like, I just saw a military ad with a normal white dude in it instead of a gay wedding. We're going to war, folks.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's true though. And now I'm starting to see articles. I won't spend a ton of time on this because we do got to move along to our Super Cringe Thursday. But I'm starting to see articles where they are noticing that white right-leaning individuals are no longer applying for positions in the military, and there are a lot of non-white left-leaning individuals applying for administrative roles in the military, which is not what's needed.
No, you need
boots on the ground, combat-ready individuals.
Yeah, you need people that are in charge of weapon systems and maintenance and all that stuff.
So, maybe if the military hadn't scorned, right-leaning white poor people, they wouldn't be having this issue right now.
Well, I mean, a lot of people go into the military because they're fucking poor.
Yeah.
That's why I went in the military. That's why I went in the military. It's like I can either go into the military and do a little bit better than I'm doing right now, but perhaps
but they weren't turning around
provide an opportunity for myself.
They weren't telling you at every turn that you're an evil, racist, horrible piece of shit and they want you to die.
Right.
Like they do now.
Well, I mean, but now a lot of that too is that it's gotten to the point with, it's not just corporate media anymore.
Yeah.
You have independent media that is shedding light on what's actually going on in these other countries like Ukraine and Israel. And we know enough about previous wars that we fought where we go, oh, it was just for fucking nothing.
Yeah. Nothing came of it.
All of my friends died. Like, I've got my fucking arm blown off For fucking what?
For nothing.
So that way these fucking defense contractors could make a whole bunch of fucking money?
Yeah.
Fuck that. I'm not
doing
that.
So that Nikki Haley can make all her money?
And a lot of people that before me, a lot of people that came before me, like in the early 2000s that fought during these wars and everything, and a lot of people that I served with are like, I would never in a million years recommend service under the current regime right now.
No.
Or anyone else that would be hawkish. Because we're not serving this country. You're serving the interests of defense contractors.
Yep. The military-industrial
complex, which is the exact same thing that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned against in his exit speech.
He caught that right away. He saw that coming from miles away.
And for him to be a general in the fucking army and be like, oh, no.
Yeah, we can't let this happen.
We can't continue with this. Yeah. It's like, and I'm trying to warn you against this.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's wrapped up in like the administrative state, political donors, and probably with the like the FBI and the CIA, especially the CIA. It's like, so yeah, no, I certainly would not recommend, and especially too, like with the military, it has to be meritocratic. You can't hire on quotas.
Yeah.
You can't fucking do it.
There's no room for that.
There's no fucking room for it. Once you get it, like you have to rely on your rules and regulations to break up anything that might happen later with the military, as far as like what's the fucking word I'm looking for? I just spaced on that. If you have like any type of issue with like people, what the fuck is the word I'm looking for?
I'm gonna rapid fire some words at you. War.
No.
AWOL.
No, what I'm thinking of is like having like a group of people that perpetrate against other people of a different group.
Belligerents?
People that are belligerent towards others because they're not in the in group, right?
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know why. There's a fucking word I'm looking for. And I can't find it right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, like you have to rely on your rules and regulations. You have to bring in the best people for the job.
Yeah.
And then after that, the military does a really good job of teaching people like you are all the same fucking color. You are nothing. You are shit. Yeah. And we will rebuild you.
You are green.
Yeah, right. Like I remember like when I was in boot camp, like it didn't matter like what fucking color you were or like where you fucking came from.
Right.
Like we're all
in the suck together.
Yeah. It's like you're all pieces of shit and I'm going to rebuild you.
Right.
Into my image.
Because we have to.
We have to break you all the way down.
Yep.
But like you have to rely on that to get the best people in there. And whether or not it comes from the inner city or rural America or wherever, it doesn't fucking matter. You've got to get the best people because national security relies on it.
Depends on it.
Depends on it.
Yep.
You can't look at someone and go, we're not taking your type right now.
Yep.
I'm more interested in this girl over here that's got 2 moms because I'm trying to fill a fucking quota.
Yeah, we're trying to be inclusive and diverse.
Well, guess what? If that girl that has 2 moms just happens to be the best candidate for the job,
perfect.
Great.
Fine.
Perfect. I don't give a fuck about any of that other shit.
Yeah.
I want to know about you and whether or not you're the best person for the job.
Yeah.
None of that other shit makes any fucking difference to me.
I think the moment that we see an article about the Navy SEALs hiring through DEI practices, I think that's when it ends. I think that's it. I think it's when we all wrap this up.
Well,
we're done.
I think it is funny that the special warfare community has not adopted any of that bullshit.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder why.
Whereas, like, you have, like, other...
We have all of the gray men and, like, the wet work guys.
Right.
It's one little quick thing before we get to our Super Cringe Thursday is I wanted to see if you've noticed this. I'm sure you have. All throughout us growing up, you, me, even Aaron, our generation, we were taught that everyone's the same,
right,
and that you shouldn't treat others differently based on race,
you treat other people based on the content of their character.
Yeah, I mean. You know, and I was like, sure, that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me.
And I had all manner of friends growing up. I had black friends, I had gay friends, I had all these people. So, and somewhere along the line, it was you have to recognize that people are different first,
right?
It was like, and you also have to hate yourself.
Right.
For these things.
No and no.
Yeah. I was like, right. Where did that come from?
Right.
It was like, so now you have this whole generation of people who are like, okay, let's work together. Let's, try to be the best we can towards one another. And then immediately behind that is people who are automatically like, I see you as a black man first.
Right.
I see you as a gay woman first. You see me as a white man first.
Right.
Like, instead of just you're a person.
And the funny thing about that is that the people that are pushing that really fucking hate neo-Nazis, but they're the same fucking person.
They're worse.
They're
worse.
You know that there's like a bunch of neo-Nazi groups out there like, yes, that's exactly what I've been talking about.
Finally, someone's listening. It just felt like, especially in America at least, we got kind of close to, this idea that we're all in it together. And there's this kind of cohesion. There was this racial cohesion that was happening. And then all of a sudden, it went,
It fucking went sideways.
40 steps backwards.
Right.
Racial tensions are so bad right now. And I see it with kids younger, the younger generation, I see it with them all the time where they just hate it. They hate, the black kids hate the white kids hate black kids, and the girls hate the boys hate the girls, and it's just so much vitriol coming from every angle.
Really interesting because it was around the same time that social media got big.
That is true.
And I think there's a lot of different things that go into that. I think a lot of that is people trolling on the internet.
There is no one answer to it.
Yeah,
for sure.
that then becomes real life situations because you read that and then you think one way about this group of people. Because I do remember growing up, and I remember having all kinds of friends, and I remember being on the football team and us all working towards an end goal. We sucked at it, but we all worked towards an end goal.
Yeah, we all suck together.
Yeah, we all suck together. It's but you create a camaraderie with people, and it really teaches you that people are the same. It's you might come from a different background and you might have different leanings or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's you're all going to rot in the ground together.
Yep.
And
you're going to be worm food just like me.
So you really learn more about I have more in common with people than you think that you do.
Yeah. That's always the case. There's definitely common ground with anyone.
Right.
Somewhere there's common ground. You are a human the same as that person
right.
is.
I think all it is it was well-intentioned people trying to figure out why is it that we have people in this country that are struggling and they never seem to be able to get it figured out.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at the individuals, and then I think that there are some cases where people just they're in a shit fucking situation and there's fucking no way out of it.
Yeah.
And it's and we should have a social safety net to help those people.
To help those people, yeah.
If you have a kid that's born with half a fucking lung.
Yeah, or fucking Harlequin's disease or some shit.
And no fucking legs.
Yeah.
It's society is going to need to take care of that kid.
Yeah.
It's but if you have somebody who's able-bodied and they are, they have all of their cognitive abilities, it's if you don't make it, it's I have to attribute it to your decision making.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they don't want to do that because they're empathetic and they don't want to place blame on the individual.
Yeah.
When sometimes that's what you have to fucking do.
Yeah. A lot of times, if you follow the trail far enough of these the breadcrumbs of these people's issues, it kind of comes down to
right. Well, it just rolls back to what we were talking about with therapy, where therapy used to be. It's let's figure out what the issue is
and fix it,
and then help you work through it so that you can lead a normal fucking life because you'll be happy leading a normal fucking life.
Yeah,
it's where you just have these people now that are just subscribed to these.
I am my illness.
Yeah, whatever these illnesses are. It's do you think these people are more happy just identifying with these fucking illnesses?
They're not.
I don't
They're
fucking
not. Have
think
you seen
so.
the way they act?
Right.
They're not happy. Those are not happy people.
Right. So it's obviously this isn't fucking working.
Yeah.
It's we have, at some point, we all have to go, this isn't fucking working, and we got to figure out. The thing is they're going to be we have to figure out a new way of doing things as opposed to just going back and go, well, it worked with the old ways. Like, I don't want to shock people.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to give people lobotomies.
Yeah.
It's like, but helping people understand, like, their trauma and helping them work through it.
Yeah.
And people that have trauma, then to work through it like that.
Yeah.
It's like, then,
Not somebody who went to church when they were little and didn't like it.
Right.
That's not trauma.
Right.
You just didn't like church.
Right.
Well, we've got just under 10 minutes left here, so let's finally get to our Super Cringe Thursday. So this was a real short one. It is if for those of you who didn't see it, it is a young boy, and typically we don't post like kids and stuff because kids are kids, right? Yeah. But this was something.
Yeah.
He's dancing like into the camera, and he's dancing like it looks like he's doing Fortnite dances or something.
I don't know.
He's a young kid. He's probably like 7.
Yeah, he's probably like 6 or 7 years old.
And behind him, looking through like the screen door,
that part made me cringe.
Is his father. Yeah. I'm assuming his father. Just looking at what's transpiring, but just the utter look of shame and disappointment. And that's really all there is to this one, but it's like a cringe singularity.
Yeah.
It's just this little moment of cringiness.
and it's a little bit different than like our other cringe videos, where it's just like you just feel bad for the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like the father's so very disappointed, and you're sad for the kid because the father's disappointed.
Yeah, he doesn't know. I pointed out to Wesley that the father looks like Evil Betty from Kung Pao. He really does.
I wondered, have you watched that movie recently?
So,
I'm just wondering if it still holds up.
Well, that's why I haven't watched it, because I don't think that it will.
No.
But I know that it's free on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's there if you want to go watch it.
I think it's a timepiece.
I think it is, too. Yeah. I think you have to catch that movie at a certain age.
Right.
Because if you watch it as like a 50-year-old woman, you're not going to enjoy it.
Although Mom did laugh when the baby was rolling down the hill.
I will never forget when I think we picked that movie up from Blockbuster.
No.
And we brought it home, and we all were eating like Chinese food and watching this movie. When that scene happened with the baby rolling down the hill,
it's like the first scene.
We had to pause the movie because nobody could fucking breathe. It was the funniest fucking thing I have ever seen. Like, it was so fucking funny. And then, like, when the baby stops rolling down the hill and that woman catches it, she picks it up. The woman, she's like, "Oh, poor baby." She goes, she kisses it on the head. She goes, "So cute." And then she walks over. She goes, "Bye-bye." And rolls it the rest of the way down. Oh, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, up until that point, that was the funniest fucking movie I had ever seen.
If anybody saw my recent cover photo on my Facebook profile page, it's Evil Betty from that movie. And it says, it's the part where he goes, "Okay, I'll shake your bouncy booty." I just came across that picture and I was like, I love it.
It wasn't like, I think with that movie too, is that was like an actual movie, and they just like dubbed him in, right?
Yeah, it was Bob, it's Odenkirk, not Odenkirk. So not Bob Odenkirk, the guy from Better Call Saul.
No.
Bob Odenkirk. He got the movie, and they edited the hell out of it. No. And some of those edits are like, how did they even do that?
Right.
So, because some of that shit's impressive. Because we watched it on VHS. No. So, yeah, it was an actual like Chinese kung fu movie. I forget what the name of it was. It's like right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what the original movie was called. But he got a hold of it, and they like green screened him into like different scenes, and they dubbed over all the voices, and they made this whole other story out of it. But there's a lot of scenes where like they did some CGI stuff, and I guess because they put like that shitty VHS filter over it, you don't really notice. Like that it's not a set.
Yeah.
Because there's a part where like what's his name, Master Tang.
Yeah.
And he's like walking through like that courtyard and he's singing about Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And like all those guys are sitting around at that table and they've got like Taco Bell bags and like cups and stuff. And it looks real. It looks like it was actually there when they filmed it originally.
Which is really funny because I think it says that movie came out in 2002. So the original movie that they dubbed over is called Tiger and Crane Fists.
Yeah.
Which is also called Savage Killers.
I want to watch it. And just see, like, I want to watch the original version.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I haven't watched it. Is like I don't want it to taint.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin my memory of it. Yeah, I love the part where he's fighting. Master Tang is fighting Evil Betty in that field, and Master Betty or Evil Betty hits him with that hook and he pulls him over.
Yeah.
And he's got the other one like this, and they do that pause.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, I have two choices. He's like, dodge to the left and take him out with a spinning back kick, or B, take the claw to the face, roll on the ground, and die. And then he gets hit in the face, and he's like, oh, I should have gone with A.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts of that movie is where he's like at the beginning of the movie where he's fighting all those guys.
Yeah.
And then he like punches that guy, and there's like the plug comes out.
Yeah, the plug comes out of him. And the narrator's like, it doesn't even seem possible when you think about it. With like bones and cartilage and stuff. I love to see where actually Evil Betty did that demonstration. Like he stood in the town square and they beat him with sticks and like it didn't faze him or whatever. Chosen One wanted to do the same thing, and all those guys beat him with sticks, and he was like passed out on the ground, and they just kept hitting him.
That was such a good movie.
It was. Like I said, I mean, if you're listening now and you've never seen the movie, you know what? Go ahead and watch it.
Right.
You might like it. A lot of our male audience will probably like it. I don't think the female audience will care for it too much. But yeah, you should go watch it. It's Kino. It's cinema.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I think too. Like when I saw that movie, I was like 13 years old, which I think is like prime.
Yeah,
that's like prime age.
The right age you want to see that. Yeah,
right.
Because you're like old enough to like appreciate like the more raunchy stuff, but you're also like still a kid, so like fart sounds are funny to you.
So the whole thing is just like hilarious.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about like Anchorman. I haven't watched Anchorman in like years.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I watched Anchorman, I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, you have to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I really want to watch it a second time. They're like, trust me.
Yeah.
Like, you watch it a second time. They're like, there's going to be stuff that you didn't pick up the first time. There's going to be stuff you didn't pick up the first time that you will this time, and that's when the movie's better.
Was that the movie where he was driving down the road and he's eating that burrito? And he throws out the window and it hits Jack Black. He's like a biker dude or whatever. He takes his dog and he like punts the dog off the bridge.
Yeah, he's like driving down the road. He's like, this burrito is so delicious but so filling. He just like tosses it out the window.
I tell you what, the second one sucked.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the second one.
It's like they can't make a Step Brothers 2.
No.
That's just, those movies were like, they just have to exist by themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really with comedy movies, like you can't do a trilogy with a comedy movie. It doesn't fucking work.
Mm-mm. And you could tell, like, there's a lot of parts in Anchorman where they were just letting Will Ferrell just riff.
Right.
That's the same thing they did with Step Brothers, him and John C. Reilly. They were just letting them kind of riff together and, just kind of ad-lib some things. And just like whatever scene worked best was what made it into the final cut.
Right.
One of my favorite parts of Step Brothers is when they're giving that presentation about Prestige Worldwide. And they're like, they never really explain what they are.
Yeah.
They were like, we put liquid paper on a bee. It died.
Like the whole time, like the video's playing behind them, and they finally wreck that boat.
Yeah, like in the dad's boat.
Yeah. He's like, "Do you wreck my boat?" He's like, "I think we're missing the point here."
Boats and hose. That's another one. You got to catch it at the right time.
Yeah, that one was a good one. Anchorman is another good one if you catch it at the right time. Kung Pao, and then I feel like one that still kind of holds up, like if you're into like that kind of humor, is like I've watched it a couple of times and it's still pretty good. Is Talladega Nights.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
That one still holds up.
Yeah, I always forget that Michael Clark Duncan's in that movie.
Yeah.
The scene where they go and visit him in the hospital, and he stabs himself in the leg with that steak knife. And they're trying to pry it out with the other one. Oh, man.
Oh, God. That was such a good movie.
It was. Well, I think that's about all we got time for today, everybody. This was episode 93 of the Thicc Bois podcast. So in 2 more episodes, we will reveal our plans. We're call them plans, or tentative plans for episode 100. Hopefully all that works out well, and everybody will enjoy that. I think it'll be fun. We can do it. If we were wrong about anything, we touched on a lot of sensitive topics today. If we were wrong about anything, or if you have any input you would like to share, make sure you reach out to us on the Facebook page. Excuse me. Or you can email us at thickboypodcast. Hang on. I thought I had another burp coming, but I didn't. thickboypodcast@gmail.com. So those are going to be the 2 best ways to reach out to us. We still have some stickers left if anybody wants some. I've had a couple people reach out and say they want some, so I want to get those to you eventually when I get off my ass and do it. It's kind of the theme of the podcast.
You're lucky you're getting episodes right now.
So yeah, I think that's about it. Do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Nope. As always, I'll just give the same old spiel I always give. Thank you so much for the continued support. We really do appreciate it. If we're not on your preferred podcast platform, let us know. I think we are everywhere that we can be right now, except for some video platforms. But we're working on it.
We're getting there.
And so just thank you for the continued support. If, like Gary said, if you want to reach out and contact us, you can do it through the Facebook page or through the email. I think that we still put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So that's still there. But nope, just thank you so much for continued support. We really do appreciate it.
All right. Well, everybody, that's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.